Hey guys, this is going to be a quick-ass guide to Xhul'horac on Normal and Heroic. This is a 4-phase encounter where it's all about managing your Fel abilities versus your Void abilities. To allow for maximum space, you're going to want to start the encounter on one side of the room, and then for phase 2, swap to the opposite side. For phase 1 and 2, the easiest thing for tanks is to have one tank tanking the boss and one tank tanking the ad. The tank on the boss is going to be getting hit by Fel Strike in phase 1 and Void Strike in phase 2, but you shouldn't need to use any personals or CDs to handle it. The tank on the large ad in phase 1 is going to be getting hit by Fel Blaze Flurry, and in phase 2 it's going to be getting hit by Withering Gaze. You will want to use a personal to handle those abilities. Everyone else in phase 1 will be dealing with 2 mechanics, the first being Fel Surge. 5 people will be targeted with the debuff, and you have a few seconds to get yourself to the edge of the room before it falls off and you drop a patch of Fel Fire on the ground, which will spread for the rest of the fight. The other ability is Chains of Fel, which will target 3 people, and you'll have little green chains linking you. Just run away from each other to break those chains. Additionally, from phase 1 through phase 3, the boss will spawn wild pyromaniacs, which will need to be silenced, interrupted, and burned quickly. If they get their cast off, a green orb will shoot out and upon hitting the ground will drop a patch of Fel Fire. You can stop that from happening by running into the orb, but doing so will leave a stacking debuff called Ablaze on you. The large ads that spawn in phase 1 and phase 2 share damage taken with the boss. When the ad dies, the boss will transition into the next phase. So in phase 1, when the ad dies, make your way over to the other side of the room and be sure to kill any remaining pyromaniacs. Phase 2 is all about dealing with Void abilities. One person will be targeted with Void Surge, and just like you did with Fel Surge, that person needs to get to the edge of the room to drop Void Fire on the ground. You'll now also have to deal with ads called Unstable Void Fiends. These ads will blink to players and put purple void zones underneath their feet. It is absolutely crucial that you move out of these immediately, as standing in them will spawn a Void Fire. Lastly, an ability called Black Hole will go out that will place a large void zone on the ground. After a few seconds, it will activate and begin pulling everyone towards it. When it forms, have ranged group near it and run into it when it activates. This works like a meteor mechanic within 11 yards, so the more people in it, the less damage you take. Some classes like Hunters can also be used to solo these. Now that you've seen both the green junk and the purple junk, let's talk about the debuffs that go along with this. Standing in purple or green fire will give you Void Touched or Fel Touched respectively, and additionally you will get Void Singed and Fel Singed. The Singed debuffs are a short stacking debuff that are basically just there so you're not standing in fire the whole time like a bad. However, Void Touched and Fel Touched last a little bit longer, and if you're Void Touched and you touch green fire, or Fel Touched and you touch purple fire, you will explode for a bunch of damage in what is called a Shadowfell Annihilation. The Shadowfell Annihilation inflicts a big burst of damage to those within 20 yards and a smaller burst to everyone in the raid, while targets within 5 yards of the explosion are debuffed and then take 75% more damage from further Shadowfell Annihilations for 1 minute. Additionally, it will strip you of any of those Void or Fel debuffs that we just talked about. This mechanic can actually be used to your advantage if you get a poorly placed fire. Have someone with personals run into the opposite fire to gain the debuff, and then into the fire you want to clear. This will remove the patch, but just make sure the rest of the raid is 20 yards away from this area. Shadowfell Annihilations can also happen from purple fire and green fire creeping into each other, which is why you want to try to keep them separate on either sides of the room. When the phase 2 large ad dies, phase 3 will begin, which will bring in abilities from both phase 1 and phase 2. Tanks will now need to be quick about their taunts and have one soaking the Fel strikes and the other soaking the Void strikes. If a tank debuff with the Fel gets hit by the Void strike, or vice versa, they will cause a large raid-wide explosion. Fel Surge will go out first and alternate with Void Surge, so start on the green side to drop off your debuffs and then be prepared to run to the purple side, and back and forth. Keep burning the ads and make sure you're ready to pop cooldowns if any explosion should occur. At 20%, he will transition to phase 4, stop calling ads, but start casting Overwhelming Chaos, dealing large bursts of raid-wide damage and increasing his damage dealt. Pop hero, roll cooldowns, and continue to perform the mechanics. And that is all for this boss. I hope you found this guide helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and good luck in Hellfire Citadel.